Okay, I'm going to go ahead and start. My name is Suri Deitch, and I'm Dean of the School of Professional Advancement, and I'm joined by my colleague Sheila Gold, who oversees recruitment and admissions, and our colleague Ann Conlon is behind the scenes sharing her screen to show you slides. And Ann just posted in the chat box at the bottom of the screen to say that's a great place to put in questions or comments. And I guess the first thing I'd like to do is say, if you can turn on your video, if you're somewhere where you can, that's great. We automatically mute you when you join the webinar, and you're welcome to unmute yourself and ask a question at any point, but we'll also take time at the end to make sure that we've covered people's questions. But I actually have a question for you as a first thing, and I'm wondering if you could just tell us in the chat box what program you're interested in, or where you're calling in from, or something about yourself with your name. Probably everyone is very conversant in Zoom at this point. We used to have to explain it, but I don't think we have to explain it as much anymore. So Shanti, thanks for saying hello. Karen, welcome. Thanks. Jessica, great. So we've got teaching, sounds like the paralegal post-baccalaureate or general legal studies bachelor's. Anyone else? Okay, great. Digital design, information technology, fabulous. Well, and other people should feel free to also tell us what you're interested in. So like I said, this is the chat box is a great place to put your questions, and we'll answer them during the webinar, or we'll follow up with you afterward if it's something that we need to take a little time with or give you more information about. And again, thanks for taking time out of your evening to join us on this webinar at the School of Professional Advancement at Tulane University. And we're going to talk this evening about our undergraduate degree programs and certificates. So I'm going to talk about SOPA, as we call it, and our programs and our services. And then Sheila's going to take over, and she's going to talk about important things like tuition and the admissions application and admissions process. And then we'll see at the end if people have questions. So I guess the first thing these days, we're thinking a little bit differently about our webinars than we had been, in part because, right, people are on Zoom all day together, typically, right, if you're lucky enough to have a job. People are in their homes and kind of isolated about who they get to see. And so that's why we say, if you can turn on your video, that's a great thing, because it's nice to see new faces. And, you know, I think most importantly, I want to talk about Tulane in the, context of the COVID-19 pandemic that's going on and what's happening in the economy regionally and really around the world. And my dog may stick his face in my, hopefully he'll stay away, but just so you know, I have a large dog. This is what happens these days, right? Everyone's working from home, if you're lucky again. So Tulane has a long history of educating working adults and offering applied programs that are relevant to the workplace. And that's the biggest focus of SOPA. And I want to say two things about what's going on right now and where SOPA and Tulane fit in. And the first thing is that I think that, as with many other parts of the economy, I think a lot of higher education institutions are going to be struggling over the next few years because of all the reasons that any other kind of business or industry struggles, revenue and enrollments and things like that, and people having less, like more uncertainty and less financial flexibility. And Tulane and SOPA are thankfully not in that position of struggling. We are adjusting to the current reality. I'll talk a little bit more about our online instruction and our online programs. We were really well positioned for the unfortunate situation of being in a pandemic, in the sense that, not only did we have a lot in place in case we needed to evacuate for a hurricane or something like that, but we were also doing a lot of online instruction. And so the adjustment, while it was a lift, it was manageable. And during this time of great uncertainty, Tulane is solid and here for you and here for other students and community members. And while there is a lot of uncertainty in the economy right now, the fact is that all the anecdotes and many of the anecdotes and all the research shows that earning a college degree or a certificate, especially in an applied area, is one of the best ways that you can insulate yourself against an economic downturn. And so while it can be a struggle to go to school at a time like this, we are really strongly encouraging people to think about it and to make good choices about which institutions to go to. Obviously, we think that SOPA is a great option for reasons we'll talk about. But now is a good time to be in school if you're going to earn your degree or your certificate. That's the key point. And Tulane and SOPA are a really good place to do it. And one of the other reasons why Tulane and SOPA are a good place to do it is because, again, that long-term commitment to supporting working adults, which we're so proud of, at the same time as we teach in a 21st century way that works for the year 2020 and going forward. So next slide, Anne. The way we think about what is important and valuable about the School of Professional Advancement is in these 5 areas. So I'm going to talk more about online instruction in a minute, but we put that first because it's first for a lot of people at the moment. Programs and faculty that are highly relevant to the workplace, faculty, a combination of faculty who teach full-time and who work in industry and teach for us part-time, and all the benefits that brings. I'm going to talk for a minute about our excellent student support structures and our services and the staff who are there with you every step of the way. Sheila's going to talk about affordability. We know that paying for school can be a struggle and a challenge, and we feel really good about the fact that our tuition is relatively affordable, that we're keeping Tulane in reach, and that the payoff of earning that Tulane degree or certificate is so great that there's no question for us that it is a worthwhile investment, even if it's tough to manage at times. And then finally, the fact that it is Tulane and all the benefits that one gets from being a student, a member of the Tulane community, and an alum of Tulane. So I'm going to talk for a couple minutes about online, which is a real strength of ours. And especially right now, I mean, I think it's been true for a long time that you could find really excellent online instruction and you could find really mediocre online instruction. And I think that's even more true at the moment. And it's one of the reasons why we're so proud of the model that we use to teach online. And so what we do is we combine face-to-face, synchronous, that's the word that we use, meetings like the one we're having right now. And those are typically once a month in an online course with a lot of other kinds of material. So you have textbooks, but you also have and textbooks and articles and things you would typically expect in a class, but you also have video and podcasts, and sometimes you have simulation games. And in our digital design program, for example, where we have created a virtual lab where you can do your lab work and do all the things that you need to do to interact with your fellow students in terms of critiquing one another's work and working collaboratively in a virtual environment. And we follow best practices. We have a really innovative model and a really successful model of teaching online. And in the next slide, we have some data points that we've put together that give a little bit of a sense of why we say that we're good at this and why Tulane SOPA is a great place to come for online education. Many students doing it, spending many hours in online courses, many different programs, and faculty who are trained especially to teach online, which is not the same as teaching in a classroom, and resulting in fabulous programs, many of them award-winning programs. And so we're really proud of what we do online at the same time as we look forward to being able to teach in the classroom starting this fall as well, or to have some combination of the two, which I think is going to be the case in many of our courses. All right, the next slide just lists our programs, which we don't have time to go over in depth this evening. Each of the areas of programming, the bachelor's degrees and the certificates, has its own webinars. And if you let us know that you're interested in one or more of these areas, you'll be invited to attend these webinars. But these are bachelor's degrees. So a Bachelor of Science or a Bachelor of Arts, 120 credit programs. Many of our students at SOPA are what we call degree completers. So they've started somewhere else. Maybe they were at Tulane, actually. That happens in some instances. Life got in the way. Other things came up, and now they're coming back to finish degrees. But we also have students who are just out of high school and students who never went to college anywhere and are trying college for the first time with SOPA, whatever their age might be. Post-baccalaureate certificates are programs for students who have earned a bachelor's degree already. And that includes our teacher preparation area. I saw one person was interested in that. And then we have what we call professional certificates, which are undergraduate certificate programs that don't require a bachelor's degree to take advantage of them. We always love to talk about our faculty. It's one of the high points of learning at SOPA and working at SOPA. So we've picked out just 4 people from our faculty as a small sample of the kinds of folks we have. So we have an expert in litigation, right? A lawyer who's an expert in litigation. We have someone who works for one of the hottest game arts and animation companies in the country, in Exile Entertainment, teaching for us in our digital design program. Tyra Mitchell, whose photo you see, who's a physical therapist, teaches in kinesiology, so exercise science and health and wellness, and at the graduate level sports studies. And then Ralph Russo, who is the director of our information technology programs and a cybersecurity expert with decades of experience in government and in the private sector, running big operations, founding companies, all of that. So we're really proud of our faculty. It's a combination, like I said earlier, of full-time faculty, who are completely devoted to teaching students and working with and mentoring students, and then people who are in the field and love to teach our students and our highly diverse students, and that's a passion for them, and so they do it in addition to their work in industry or in the field of teaching or government or whatever the case might be. We also like to talk about our student support and success, and the fact that we have dedicated academic advisors who work with you every step of the way to help you make decisions about what courses to take when, how to maximize the value of your prior coursework or courses that you're looking to transfer in, and who do everything they can to create a situation where you can work really hard and be successful academically. So you are assigned a career advisor as part of your experience at SOPA, regardless of the program you're in, regardless of what you're studying. Also, we have, as I said, we have the faculty who come from industry, and so they bring not just their experience and their perspective from the field, but they also bring their professional networks, and they use those networks to help students advance themselves in their careers. We have a dedicated career advisor who can work with you to sharpen your resume, to help you tell your professional story so that you're ready for your next steps, to do things like making sure that your LinkedIn profile is the best that it can be, that you've got that specialized resume that you need for a particular job. And then, of course, like I said earlier, you become part of the Tulane community for the rest of your life. And so one of the things that gets you is access to peers and networks that you can use for the rest of your career. We also love to talk about credit for prior learning, because that's so important, especially when you have adult students who come with experience, who come with training or volunteer work. And we do things like accept testing credit from the military and in other ways. But we also do what's called portfolio assessment, where you can work with our faculty to match your experience to specific courses in the curriculum and to document that in what's called a portfolio. And then the portfolio is graded by the faculty, and you can receive up to 24 credits toward your degree, which is pretty significant if you're talking about 120 credit bachelor's degree. All right, I'll turn it over to Sheila to talk. And just to say, again, please go ahead and ask questions in the chat box at any point.
Thanks, Suri. I just want to once again welcome everybody to the webinar tonight. I always like to acknowledge that it's, for at least for us in New Orleans, it's 6 o'clock in the evening. It might be different time zones for those of you, but it's at the end of the day. And we appreciate the fact that you're taking some time to spend it with us and learn about our programs. And we certainly want to acknowledge that you're here with us and say thank you. It's one of the things at SOPA that we do like to talk about is our affordability and the fact that we like to make our degree accessible to students. So just to explicitly share the information with you, for those of you who are applying for our summer term, and our application is open till Thursday. It's open till May 15th. So if you're finishing it up, you still have a couple days to get it in. Our tuition per credit hour is $474. And then for the fall, there's a slight increase for those of you who are applying for the fall term to $524 per credit hour. We do, one of the things that I do like to share is we intentionally keep our fees very low. So, you know, I always assume that students are savvy consumers and that you're looking at all the pieces of the price to go back to school, as you should. And one of the things that you might notice as you look at Tulane and presumably other schools is that there's the tuition rate, and then there are also the fees. Many schools have additional fees that can almost double the tuition rate. That is not the case at SOPA. So I like to be very intentional about pointing that piece out. And hopefully that'll be helpful to you as you're making your informed decision. You know, for most of our students, financial aid is an option that they do take advantage of. For those of you who have already started your application, I would encourage you to also go ahead and fill out the FAFSA form. When I talk to prospective students, I like to let them know that the FAFSA and financial aid process can take several weeks. So don't delay with that. Look at those as like a parallel process. As you're filling out your application for admission, also fill out your financial aid paperwork, because there's multi-steps to it and it can take some time. But we do have a financial aid office that is accessible to our students that will answer your questions and will help you with the process. If you would like to reach out to our office first, we can maybe answer some preliminary questions. And if they're a little bit more in depth, we will point you in the right direction for whom to talk to at the financial aid office. Some of the information that we like to point out is that our students are that you are able to take advantage of federal grants and loans. We are also a yellow ribbon school. We are military friendly. So for those of you who might be active military or veterans, we always like to point out that we're a military friendly school, that we have 20% discounts for active military, also discounts for K through 12 instructional staff. And for those of you who are joining us from the New Orleans area, if you're public school employees, we also like to or public employees for the parish, we also like to point out that you are eligible for a discount. Another way that you can save money towards tuition is by taking advantage of the credits for prior learning programs. So if you have certifications professionally, if you've had training in the military and gotten certificates, or maybe as a first responder, certifications in the workplace, oftentimes you can get credit for classes for those. So it's worth a conversation. It's worth finding out if that is true. And that is another way that you can save potentially up to 24 hours of tuition credit. So we like to work with students and help you along with that. The application process, we try to make as simple as possible. So applying is simple with an exclamation point is true. For those of you who have started your application already, you will know what I'm talking about. If you haven't, we encourage you to start your application this evening. You can go to our website at sopa.tulane.edu and you will see a big apply button at the top of the page that opens up your application portal, and you can start your application. We will ask for some background information, your name, your address, phone number, email address, those sorts of things, as well as some educational information. There is a $40 application fee for the undergraduate application, but as our way of saying thank you to you for joining this webinar tonight, we will waive that application fee for you. That is an automatic process. It should automatically get waived. Let me say a couple things about that. If you have already applied and paid your application fee, but you're joining us tonight, please send me an email after this webinar and I can refund that fee. We still want to say thank you. And we certainly understand that, you know, you may be watching the webinar after you have submitted your application. That is okay. We are still appreciative. For those of you who may put your application in and for some reason may not get the waived fee, please send us an email. You are entitled to the waived fee, and we don't be shy about it. We would love to go ahead and get an email from you, and we'll go ahead and waive it. Another piece of information that we need in the application process is a current valid government ID. The easiest way to do this is to take a picture using your phone or somebody else's phone of a driver's license or a passport, and you can upload that image to your application. We also will need transcripts from any program from which you've attended. So if you have any college credit, go ahead and send us those transcripts. Or if you are on this webinar and you are about to graduate from high school, we'll need high school transcripts as well. If you have any questions about this application process, feel free to ask in the chat box, or if you'd prefer to think about it a little bit more, we are always available to answer questions after the webinar. We love hearing from students, and I consider the application process part of our building relationships with students. So we'd like to hear from you. We'd like to learn a little bit more about you, and please do not be shy in any way reaching out. It's our pleasure. We love getting to know our prospective students. All right, our application deadlines. Like I said, for those of you who may be applying for summer, and I certainly hope that you are, you have until May 15th. So later this week. For those of you who are interested in starting in fall, the more traditional fall start, you have until August 15th. So you have plenty of time. And there may be a few of you who are planners and thinking about the spring date. January 1st is our deadline for the spring. I do see that there was a question in the chat box that kind of popped up and went down quickly, but I think somebody said, what is my email address? We will show you a slide with that at the end, but it's S, like Sam or Sheila, Gold, G-O-L-D, at tulane.edu. All right, that is my email address. So sgold@tulane.edu, and that's a phone number also where you can go ahead and reach us. And we are excited, even though that we're out of the office, we are accepting phone calls as well.
And I just want to point out, so all of our social media handles are at the bottom of that screen. And Tulane University has not commencement, not a graduation ceremony on Saturday, but sort of an event, and just posted to Twitter, if you want to follow us on Twitter, some videos sort of teasing the event on Saturday, which we're really excited about. Although we're also going to have an in-person commencement, we're just not sure when, right? Given current circumstances. So we've had a couple questions in the chat. Does anyone else have questions that you want to type out there, or you can also unmute yourself at this point and go ahead and ask them out loud? We'll also send you an email, or Sheila will send you an email tomorrow with a link to this webinar, and you'll get her contact information again. And we will be in touch with you. So Shanti has a question, is SOPA graduation with the other Tulane students? Yes, every school at Tulane participates in a university-wide commencement ceremony and then has its own commencement ceremony. So this Saturday, if we were still in the normal world, the students graduating would have been at Yeoman Stadium in the morning and then walked over to McAllister Auditorium on the Uptown campus for the SOPA commencement ceremony, and then had a second line across the way to the Student Center and a big party after that. That'll happen later, but it's not happening this weekend, right? Like every single event. Any other questions that folks have? Well, we really appreciate your time. We hope that you stay safe and healthy. We look forward to getting to know you as part of your journey toward becoming a SOPA student. And I did just see a question from Jessica about whether or not we have a bachelor's degree in teaching, and Tulane does not offer a bachelor's degree in teaching. If you become an undergraduate and are working on a bachelor's, you can become certified as a teacher while you're studying for your undergraduate degree. And if you already have an undergraduate degree, you can come back and become certified on a post-baccalaureate basis. So it's not a major, but it's an industry certification. All right. We really appreciate your time. Again, like Sheila said, thanks for taking time out of your busy lives. Again, stay healthy and safe, and we look forward to being in touch with you. Have a good evening, everyone.
Thank you.